Now that we have currently selected menu item highlighted, it will also be good to automatically determine which menu item should be highlighted on the initial page load. And we can do this based on the value of the page hash inside of address bar. But before doing that, let's open up the Now component and create separate constants to represent page names. As you can see, currently we use hard-coded page names as keys inside of this Now items object. But in the future, we're going to reference page names a lot in different files. So it will be beneficial to have constants that will represent page names. And whenever, for example, we would like to rename particular page, we're only going to have to rename one constant value, instead of going through multiple pages and rename every page occurrence. So right here, let's import 3 constants, which we're gonna create soon, to represent every page name. Our constants will be called page timeline, page activities, and page progress. And here we're following conventions of naming constants and using uppercase register. Let's store constants in a separate file called constants.js. And by the way, whenever importing files with JS extension, this extension can be omitted. So now let's create a file with constants called constants.js. We're going to place this file within source folder. And here we're going to define 3 constants which will represent page names and at the same time export them. Let's make sure we use correct names for every constant. And then go back to the Now component. Here we used page names directly to specify keys for Now items object. But now, since we have separate constants that represent page names, we can use dynamic object properties notation by using square brackets. And instead of hard-coding page names directly, we're going to reference our new constants: page timeline, page activities, and page progress. And as you can see down below, we also have one hard-coded value of the timeline page. Let's just replace this value with appropriate constant, page timeline. But in fact, this is not going to help us in what we're currently trying to do, because we're trying to automatically determine currently selected page based on the page hash value. So first of all, we need to read this value. Let's access location object, then access hash object. This will give us string value of the hash. But this value will also contain a hashtag symbol at the beginning. So we just have to strip this hashtag symbol. For that, let's use slice method and take all characters except the first one. And now let's see if that works. I'm gonna choose progress as the value for the hash. Then refresh the page and let's take a look on the right. What value is stored within current page variable. And indeed, that value was updated based on the page hash. It stores string progress. And also corresponding menu item was highlighted. But now let's see what happens if I'm going to specify page hash, which doesn't correspond to any page. Let's see what happens now after page refresh. And as you can see, none of the menu items was highlighted in this case. So let's also highlight the first menu item. Whenever page hash does not correspond to any existing page, we're gonna have to write a little bit more logic to do this. So let's create a separate function called normalize page hash. As the first step, we're gonna read current page hash and store it within hash constant. Then, based on keys of Now items object that correspond to every page name, we're gonna write condition in here and check if the current hash match any existing page, then it's considered valid hash, so we're going to return hash value. Otherwise, we're gonna have to update page hash. And we'll assign the name of the first page by assigning constant page timeline. And eventually, let's return the name of timeline page. Alright, so whenever valid page hash is specified, the current menu item in navigation bar will be highlighted based on that hash. And if we'll try to specify an invalid hash and refresh the page, then we notice that the first page will automatically get highlighted. And the page hash was also updated on the name of timeline page. And to implement such hash normalization, we have created a separate function inside of the Now component called normalize page hash. and then used the return value of this function as the value for the reactive variable current page, so that based on this variable's value, Vue could properly highlight corresponding now item in the navigation bar.